Page 52, cut time exercise. At the top of the page, they're introducing cut time. We've already had common time. That's the C, it stands for 4/4. Well, if you take common time and cut it, you get cut time. And that stands for 2/2. 2 beats in a measure, and a half note gets a count. Well, if a half note gets a count, then a whole note gets 2 counts. A quarter note is going to get a half a count. Everything adjusts accordingly. It just, now you're counting the beat is half notes. Take a look at this cut time exercise. The cut time symbol, it's a C like common time, but it's got that line through it. Tells you it's in 2/2 time. So we have in the first measure in the right hand, there's 2 half notes. Well, we're counting half notes, and there are 2 beats in a measure, so that works out. There's 2. In the left hand, we're doing quarter notes. There's 4 of those, of course, but you get is 1 and 2 and 1 and. Now the and is for quarter notes. So other than that, it's exactly the same. Generally speaking, if something is in cut time, it'll be played a little faster. Doesn't have to. For instance, if I do just a few measures of this cut time exercise, and let's pretend it's in 4/4 time, or common time, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, so it would be this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Well, in cut time, it's going to be a 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. I just don't have a lot to say about it. The idea is the more you play, the more experience you get, the better you're going to get, you'll advance. So even though this is just a little exercise thing, there's not much to it, let's go through it anyway. Take the time to go ahead and learn it. It's not something you're going to play for somebody who comes over to listen to you play, but it's pretty good exercise. There are some tricky things in it that I'd like to point out in the left hand. The right hand is simple enough. It's just you're in G position and you just stay in there. Everything's right there for you. But the left hand, look out. We have, and they're, look at their fingering. They're saying 3, 2, 1. Well, hold all those notes down at one time, you get this. This is the standard fingering for this chord. Remember, we have the octaves, and then we got 2 notes in. So we finger it this way. Problem is the next measure, or the third measure over, when we switch to a different chord, because now you're going here, here, and here. Well, you gotta have a pretty big hand to stretch all of that. So this makes it a little trickier. They're saying third finger, and then up, and then down. You cannot necessarily connect these, especially if you have a little hand, but that's okay because this piece, the atmosphere of the piece, is a bouncy piece anyway. So you don't need to connect any of the notes in the left hand. You just put a little separation between each one and bounce along. So even at the beginning. It's not staccato, they're just separated. Like so. Now take a look at the second line. The first measure is the same as the first measure in the first line. But now look at the second measure. On the D7 chord, they want F sharp, because there's an F sharp in the key signature. All F's are sharped. And now they're saying 1 and 2 on the C and the D, and then here. Actually, it's more appropriate, in my opinion, to use the 4th finger on the F sharp for this fingering for this chord, not this finger. It's up to you. Because you're bouncing along, you can get away with that. I'm going to use 4th finger because in the fingering that I'm used to, that's what I would use for this chord. Also, another thing you can do here, if you want, is on the C and the D, rather than a 2-1, you can use just the thumb. And you can just, rather than this way, you go this way slightly and you can get both of those notes. And that's a very common fingering in piano for either hand when you got two notes next to each other and you're stretching out. Because if I do that, I can do, even with the third finger on the F sharp, I can do this fairly easily without, using the second finger. It's not a stretch. And then, so experiment with that fingering and see what you think. You will need it from time to time. It doesn't hurt you to go ahead and learn it now. Now while you're doing this, I have another challenge for you. Because you're going to need to be able to do it. We just start now. I said the left hand is kind of bouncing along, separate the notes. Well, in the right hand, play them all connected. Can you do that at the same time, where one hand is disconnected and the other hand is connected? Because it can get tricky. Because I'm playing the right hand connected all. So let's try this cut time exercise together. I'm going to give us 2 counts because there's only 2 beats in the measure. I'm going to go ready and go and then we're off with the quarter notes. So go ahead and put your hands where they go. Ready and go and.